Okay, this video is going to be going over how to measure your tool lengths and inputting your tool diameters. There's basically 4 different ways here at the Tech that we can measure our lengths with the Haas machines. On one of the Haas and one of the VF tools here, we have the probing system. There'll be another video that will go over that. For the older VF1, we actually have this tool measuring tree calibrated for that machine. And basically what you do with that is you measure the length of your tool off the reading. You got this stands for 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, 5, 6, 7. So we're at 8 inches, and whatever your micrometer would read, 0.112. So you would input for this tool, if you're using this on the older Haas machine, 8.112. And then if you were in the VF tool, you want to set your part 0 off the bottom of the quill. Not the keys, but the bottom of the quill. That is one way you can do it. The most common way is here at the school to what you're going to be doing is you're going to be measuring all your tools off a common surface. And what I mean by a common surface is a surface that's not going to change. We're going to use the top of the table. Another one that people will use is the back side of the hard jaw. Not the front side of the hard jaw, because that does change. It floats back and forth, and it can float up and down a few thousandths. But the back side will not change. Another surface that some people will use is the bottom of the vise. That's not a real desirable surface to use, just because you may have a part in there while you're machining. You might have to measure a tool. Maybe you forgot a tool. Maybe a tool breaks, and you have to remeasure a tool in the middle of the process, and maybe you can't get to this surface. So one of the 2 best ones is the top of the table or the hard jaw. We're going to use the top of the table. Okay. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can do this to find out where that top of that tool is in relationship to the top of the table. You can use a piece of paper. You come down and you type that, you just till you feel the friction on that. I don't really like using that, and I wish you will not use that, just because it's a good way to break tools. Maybe you come down too fast. Maybe after you do your offsets, you hit the wrong direction on your Z and it comes down on top of the table. So we want you to use a 1, 2, 3 block. Does not matter if you use the 1, the 2, or the 3. I generally just use the 3-inch side. So I'm going to come down until I can hit. I want to keep, anytime you come down in the Z axis, you do not want your block underneath your part. So okay, so right there, I know I'm too low. So I'm going to go into my hand jog. I'm going to go into a 1,000 increment. And I'm just going to go up. And now that I know I'm too high, I'm just going to come down 1 click at a time. Okay, right there I'm feeling friction. So I know I'm right at exactly 3 inches off the top of the table. Now, do not leave that in there when you come to your offsets, because if you forget that it's in there, you go the wrong direction, you're going to break something. So just pull it out. It's not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to go into my offset page until my tool offsets are highlighted. Okay? Now, it's always going to show up. The highlighted one under the tool numbers is what's in the spindle is what you're working with. Okay? But you got to make sure that you highlight it is the spindle that's in the spindle. Okay? So we're under tool offsets, under H and the length, and we're working with the geometry. Okay? So once I'm with tool number 1, that's in the spindle. I got the tool length and the geometry highlighted. Now I'm going to hit tool offset measure. Okay? So now that I have that value is how far this tool is from machine home, but it's 3 inches off the table. So we want to account for the 3 inches that we use on the 1, 2, 3 block. And the only thing I'm going to do there is minus 3 point, because we want the offset to go further down. and we're going to hit the right enter button. Now remember, if you hit -3 and you hit F1, you input that -3 inches. That's not what you want. If you happen to do that, no big deal. Tool offset, measure again, and we're going to go -3 point. Okay. If you're not sure which way to go with the negative, with your 1, 2, 3 block out of there, if you notice the operator and the machine numbers here are the exact same, what's up there. If I bring this farther down, this becomes more of a negative number. So I know I want it to go more negative. For some reason, if you go the wrong way and you add 3 inches and you don't catch it right away, what's going to happen is when you come to machine your part, your tool is going to be 3 inches above your part. So you won't crash, but you will, it'll just cut 3 inches above your part. Okay, so now that's my length for this end mill. Okay, but also it's an end mill, so the machine needs to know how big it is. So I'm going to raise it up. And I want to measure how big that tool is. Best way to do it is actually take it out. You get a micrometer. And you're actually going to measure very gently. You want to make sure you get the biggest part of that diameter. So this end mill actually measures 0.612. So we're going to go under tool number 1 for the diameter geometry and type in 0.612 F1. We're going to input that value into the machine. Now, this being a roughing end mill, I want to leave more material on, and this is where you're going to want to do that. You can either do that in the geometry or in the wear page. I like doing it in the wear page because I can actually physically go back to this page and see that I did that. So let's say if I want to leave 20 thousandths on, material on for either a finished cut or to make sure I cut this part to size. So when the machine looks up in your program, when it goes and tries to find the diameter, it's going to add these two numbers together. So when the machine's cutting with this end mill, it thinks it's a 0.632 end mill. And that'll leave material on for, like I said, for either finished cuts or to cut to size. So our tool for that, tool offsets for that tool are set. So we're just going to put this back in the machine.